Indigenous cultural groups had their own ways of life. They made homes and raised their families. They formed villages and governments. Ceremonies and religious practices were important to them. They played music and created artwork. They also shared stories and passed customs along to family members. What is culture? Culture is the way of life of a group of people. It includes their art, language, ideas, beliefs, and history. Tools and skills are also part of a group's culture. The ideas that they have and live by form part of their culture. Sometimes groups share culture or aspects of culture. For example, many American Indian groups farmed the land, which is a similar cultural trait. However, others relied more on hunting, such as the groups that lived on the Great Plains. In the Pacific Northwest, fishing became part of the culture of many groups that lived in that region. Language is also part of a group's culture. American Indian groups spoke their own languages. Before Europeans came to North America, hundreds of different Native American languages were spoken. Today, Native American languages are still spoken throughout the present-day United States. The Southwest, where many descendants of the Pueblo and Navajo live, has the most native speakers. A descendant is someone who is related to a person or group of people who lived in the past. Customs, or ways of life that are repeated on a regular basis, are a part of a group's culture. They relate to actions or practices among group members that are based on tradition. Tradition is a custom or belief that is passed on from one generation to the next. What is culture? Continued. The hairstyle that we call a mohawk today was a custom of some groups in the eastern woodlands. The hairstyle was seen as fierce and was a warning to enemies not to dare cut off the mohawk during battle. Other groups, such as the Sioux in the Great Plains, wore special feathered headdresses. A green corn ceremony was held by many groups, including those in the southeast and northeast woodlands, because a good harvest was very important to their culture. In the Pacific Northwest, groups held potlatches, big feasts that showed a person's wealth and rank in the community. 1.
Daily life. Daily life for American Indians was different than what you experience today. Adults would be busy with hunting, planting, gathering, making clothing, craft work, and cooking. There was much work to do in the morning, so adults rose very early to get all of the chores down. Men might leave before dawn to go on a hunt after a meal of some meat and nuts. Women might carry water and gather wood for the fire and to cook. Young children would stay with their mothers and help with some of the chores. Older boys might join their fathers on a hunt. Primary source. When men and boys returned from the hunt in the afternoon, women would prepare a meal. After a meal, there was still work to do, but sometimes American Indians played ball games or did craft work. In the Southwest, groups such as the Pueblo created beautiful but useful pottery that could be used as food storage. Some evenings, American Indians gathered around an elder family member to listen to folk tales or traditional stories. Folk tales were and still are important to American Indian custom and tradition. They are part of folklore, or traditional customs, beliefs, and stories. Through folklore, American Indians could pass on aspects of their culture that are still practiced by some descendants today.
Family roles. Much of Native American life was based on traditions. In that way, men and women had traditional roles. Everyone's roles were important to the livelihood and survival of the group. Maintaining a steady food supply was a major focus of everyday life. Native American men did the hunting and fishing for their family and village, and kept the village safe. Women often cleaned and prepared the meat and fish. Both men and women shared in the farm work. Women planted and tended to the crops while the men were away, but men also helped with clearing the land for planting. In most regions, women also gathered nuts, seeds, and berries to provide a well-rounded diet. Family life and home life were often under the care of men and women. Women not only cared for the children, but also made clothing and household goods, cleaned and cooked. Men often took care of religious and social tasks. On the Great Plains, where the bison was so important to survival, women made sure that every part of the animal was used. They often had the task of butchering the bison. When moving from place to place, Native American women on the plains would be in charge of packing the teepee and then setting it up when the group arrived at a new place. In the Pacific Northwest, women would make clothes out of deer skin or tree bark. In the Southwest, where water was scarce, women may have had to carry water long distances to their home. In the woodlands and in other regions where forests were nearby, women would carry wood that men cut down for the campfire. Family roles continued. Children also had important roles in the family. Yet childhood was short. Children would leave the protective care of their mothers by the time they were in their teens. They would then begin training for their roles as adults. Children also listened to storytellers to learn about their group's customs and traditions. Teen boys would learn from their fathers and other men in their village. They had to prove that they were strong and brave. One test that they had to pass to show these traits was spending time alone in the wilderness. Girls would learn wilderness skills too. Some games and activities for children helped teach them the skills they needed as they got older. For example, children would learn how to fish. This skill would later help them provide food for the family and village. In the woodlands, the ball game of lacrosse was played. This game helped prepare young men to be hunters and warriors. Girls might learn how to weave a basket or make a clay pot. Those skills were needed as they got older, and such containers were needed for food storage. Religion. Most indigenous peoples had religious customs and traditions. Each group, tribe, and nation had its own religious beliefs. Some groups believed that animals and the earth had spirits. This belief is called animism. Beliefs were often tied to daily tasks. For example, before men went on a hunt, it was a common custom for them to ask permission from the spirits before killing an animal or catching fish. As you read before, traditions such as the green corn ceremony were religious festivals in which eastern woodland groups celebrated the harvest and gave thanks. They joyfully danced, sang, and prayed because the land had provided the harvest they needed to live. Pueblo groups in the Southwest, like the Hopi, sought help and advice from Kachinas. These are the spirits of natural forces, such as sun, wind, and storms. The Kachinas could also represent ancestors. An ancestor is a relative who lived in the past. Hopi artists created decorative Kachina dolls that they used to help children learn important traditions and customs. Sometimes the Hopi would perform special dances to call forth the Kachinas to join the group. Word-wise. Multiple meaning words. When you see a word that has more than one meaning, reread the sentence.
Not well.
Think about the different meanings of the
I don't
word
even know why
and
I'm
which
here.
meaning makes the most sense in
I'm
the
here
sentence.
because I never
Which meaning of
take care of myself.
force fits best in the
Walked me out
sentence
the
that
door,
includes
and he was like, "Why are you
natural
going to work?" I'm
forces
like,
such as sun, wind, and
I don't even
storms?
think. Yeah, well,
In some
I've never
indigenous
published them on
groups,
that.
there
I
were a
don't
few
think
men and women who were believed to have
I didn't
special
get a chance to
religious
talk to you
powers.
Friday because
Historians call them
you're going to
shamans.
talk to you this morning.
Other special
During the
individuals
plan.
were called
I was just
two
trying to get your
spirits
phone.
and were believed to contain both male and female spirits.
I understand what
People
you're saying.
believed that these
I get it.
individuals had
And I know
special
you don't
knowledge or
remember.
skills,
I
such as
understand
the
you don't
ability
remember,
to heal the
but
sick or
you
to pray to the forces they
told
felt
me you wanted
guided
to
them.
get a break from special ed that year that I was with Poochie. And yeah, I was very hurt that year. I was very hurt. But I did not throw it up in your face. I did not say a word. And quite frankly, if this wasn't happening right now, I probably would have died with that. Because you wanted a break, and that was good enough for me to say that. For you to say that for me, it was good enough for me. But I know you're going to tell me you don't remember it, but I remember it very well because it stung very hard that year. But again, I don't hold grudges. And the fact that you would say that I did that spitefully really, really hurts me 10 times more.
Yes,
Because I'm not a spiteful person.
can you help me to stop this recording? I was recording it and now I can't stop it. I'm not great at Screencastify.
You didn't?
Still the microphone's there.
Okay, but you should have it pinned. It would be a lot easier. No, you don't have it pinned up here.
That's because there's too many extensions. Go to that little puzzle piece.
It is pinned, but
Maybe double click it. I guess